Good morning. My name is Rishi Anandani, and I'm here to teach on a little bit on Ruth. We're doing a study on Ruth this 4 weeks, 4 Sundays, and this is the third week. I hope you're reading the book of Ruth and also reading the devotional. On the first Sunday, I shared about the background on the book of Ruth, why it was written, who wrote the book of Ruth, and also when it was written. So it was written for the purpose of informing the people of why David was a legitimate heir to the throne, even though he was a descendant of a Moabite woman. You can look at the YouTube video on IES Pick and actually look at the teachings on that. And last week I shared one spiritual lesson about what Bethlehem and Moab represented. You can also look at that video on YouTube. But today is week 3, and I just want to summarize chapter 1 and 2. I know today we're supposed to do chapter 3, and probably I would summarize chapter 3 and 4 next week, and that would be the finale. And Pastor Tommy will preach after this on chapter 3. But let's look at, I want to summarize chapter 1 and 2 so that you can actually get the gist of what the book of Ruth is about for those of you who may not have had the chance to read it. During the time of Judges, we had studied Judges before, and during that time, because they had sinned, the Lord allowed famine to come into the land, and it was part of His discipline. He wanted the people to actually turn to Him during the time of famine and remember Him, and because they had been holding on to idols, He wanted to show them that because you believe in these idols, they're not going to save you. Look at these gods who you believe in. Famine is coming. Is that the kind of gods you want to serve? So God is coming, allowing the famine to happen so that they would turn their eyes to Him. And unfortunately, this family, Elimelech, Naomi, Mahlon, and Chilion, they did not want to submit themselves to the hand of God, the hand of discipline, and they left Bethlehem and they went to Moab, a land of idolatry. But during that time, when they were in Moab, Elimelech dies, and later on, Mahlon and Chilion, they married Moabite women, which the Lord said, don't do. And after living there for 10 years, even Mahlon and Chilion died. Now, the famine ended, and now we're looking at 3 women. Naomi, who had lost her husband and 2 children, and then you have Orpah, and Ruth, they had lost their husbands. We're looking at 3 widows living in Moab, and they didn't know what to do. And then the famine ended, so Naomi decided she would return back to Bethlehem. On the way, Naomi had a change of heart, and she said to the 2 daughter-in-laws, why don't you go back to your own people, to your family, and hopefully you can find a husband who would take care of you. You can get married and then have descendants. But then they insisted, no, we want to go with you, probably because Naomi was such a good mother-in-law. She had such a good standing in the eyes of the daughters-in-law. And they insisted they wanted to go with her. But then Naomi told her, even if you go with me, I cannot give you any more sons. And even if I had sons, I don't think you're going to wait until they grow up and then you get married to them and then you would actually have children. No, you need to go back to your own people. And unfortunately, she also mentioned that you have to go back to your own gods. Somehow, I don't know why she did that, but she did that. So Orpah decided to go back, but Ruth decided that she would stick to Naomi. She didn't want to leave Naomi. And she said to Naomi, she said, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. And she said, where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. So they went to Bethlehem, and as they entered Bethlehem, the people looked at Naomi, and probably her features had changed. She was downcast, she was rugged, probably she was so discouraged, and she had wrinkles on her faces because of the stress of life. And then they were unsure, and they were thinking, could this be Naomi? And she said, don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, because life is so bitter. The Lord, she even said, the Lord has afflicted me. The Lord has brought me back empty. And the Lord has brought this misfortune upon me. She even said, the Lord's hand is against me. So Naomi returned from Moab accompanied by Ruth, the Moabite, her daughter-in-law. And at that time, it was the time of harvest of barley. So Ruth decided to go to the fields and not be a beggar, but actually work for it. She wasn't hired to be a worker, but she knew the provision that was in the law. See, God cared for the people of Israel, everybody, including the poorest of the poor. When you reap the harvest in Leviticus, there's a clause here. When you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edges of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Do not go over your vineyard a second time or pick up the grapes that have fallen. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I'm the Lord your God. The Lord cared for everybody in Israel. The land was for everyone. The promised land was for everybody, not just for the rich, not just for those who were smart, who could make money, and for those who were intelligent. It was for everybody, those who had faced misfortunes, made bad decisions in life, and they had to go through financial difficulties. Maybe they faced death like Naomi and Ruth. And God said, I want this land to be a land for everyone. Everyone will be provided. And He said to the people of Israel, if I favor you and bless you with financial blessing, make sure that you take care of the poorest among the poor. You have to leave some, the harvest in your edges. Don't harvest that. Let them be able to enjoy that. And when you glean, when you actually pluck the harvest and some of them fall from your basket, leave it for the poor. And don't take that. See, the Lord cared for them. Even in Deuteronomy, it's also the same commandment. So Ruth started going on this journey, looking for the field where she would go and actually do this. And she actually happened to, it says that she happened to enter into the field of Boaz. And she worked very hard. And when Boaz came to the fields, he actually asked the staff, who is that woman? And they explained to him that this was Ruth the Moabite, who had come from Moab and the daughter-in-law of Naomi. And they said that she had worked very hard. And Boaz told Ruth, please stay in this field. Don't go anywhere. I've told the men not to harm you. And you can get water. And he even gave her some roasted grain. And he allowed her to continue harvesting, taking the harvest. He even mentioned to the men that please drop some of the harvest purposely so that she would be able to take some home. So you can see that Boaz favored Ruth at this time. And he spoke very kindly to her. And Ruth was surprised, saying, I am a foreigner. Why are you so kind to me? What have I done? He said, I heard everything you did for your mother-in-law. And you actually took care of her from the time your husband had died, her son, Naomi's son died. You took care of her, and you left your people, and you came here, and you even embraced Yahweh, and you allowed yourself to be under His wings. Therefore, God will favor you. And so he spoke kindly to her and treated her kindly. She was even able to take some food home, around 13 kilos of food, which was good for 10 days. That was the Lord's favor. What is one spiritual lesson that we can learn here? You see, Moab represented a place of darkness. In fact, the Moabite descendants came out of an incest relationship between Lot and the daughter. And they served idols. It was a very dark place. They were pagan people. They didn't believe in God. There was no hint of anybody believing God, looking for God, searching for God, and morally they were pretty low. So it was a very dark place at that time. And you can see that Ruth and Naomi had faced different deaths. Death of a husband, death of 2 sons. And not only that, it was 3 people who had died, but they played different roles. They were the husbands of Orpah and Ruth, and they were also brother-in-laws to these 2 women. And then Elimelech was the father-in-law. They played different roles, so there was death in their lives. And there was death to hope. And Naomi was looking at her future, and it was so bleak. And she was thinking, what am I going to do in Bethlehem? I don't even know what I'm going to do, how I'm going to feed myself, who will take care of me? I'm already of age. Who is going to be there? There was hopelessness. And she was hoping that her 2 sons were actually going to take care of her when she was older, and she could go to both of their houses. She could play with the grandkids. She could spoil them, give them ice cream, give them chocolates, and go with the daughter-in-laws to the kitchen and teach her how to cook and all those things. And she could go from one house to another. But all of that was dead. She had no hope. It was all finished. Her hope was gone. There was death of people, death of hope, death of anything good that she could actually look at in the front, in her future. She was thinking, there's nothing there in the future. It's empty, it's vacuum, it's just bleak. Even though she was going towards the land of Bethlehem, and there was an indication of faith that God was actually going to do something, but we could see her faith was very weak. She was even saying, God is against me. God has brought this mystery. She had struggles about her understanding of God and the plans of God, and she didn't know what God was up to, and she was doubting God. She had a very weak faith. But I tell you, even though there was a weak faith, yet there was faith. Jesus said, if you would just have faith as small as a mustard seed, I can work with that. You don't have to have big faith. In the times of your darkness, in the times when your environment is very dark, when people are not supporting you, in the times when you're facing all kinds of death, everything is against you, there's adversity in your life, and things are so discouraging, and you don't even know how to pray to God. God said, all you need is just small faith. Just throw it to me, and I will take that, and I will work with that. I don't need big faith. Even though you can't pray it, you can say it out. You can just breathe it in your mouth. You can just think it, and I will catch it, and I will come to you, and I will run to you. All I need is just your faith. If there is faith in this world, I can work with that. God is saying, my people need to have faith. But you know what? There's a good news. Naomi had this weak faith, but Ruth had great faith. She came from a place of darkness. She came from a place of adversity spiritually. There was no hope in that for anyone to know God. She had heard about God, about Yahweh from Naomi. Naomi had shared with her, and it had planted some seed in her heart. And at the right time, when it was most needed, at the time of crisis, the faith came to birth. Whatever you share to people, they may not mind it. You may share about Jesus Christ. They may not care about it. But I tell you, God is going to work with those words. It's never going to waste. It will bring fruit at the right time. And God is going to allow circumstances in their life where they have nothing to look forward to, when they're cornered, and God is going to work in their lives and remind them of the words you have spoken about Jesus Christ. And they will be reminded, I need God, I need Jesus Christ. And Ruth remembered that. At the time when Naomi was really, really discouraged, guess what? God had prepared a person to be of strength, a strong pillar. It was Ruth. Ruth rose up at the time when it was most needed. Ruth had the faith, and not just small faith, it was great faith. Ruth came from a land of darkness, and you know, she also faced death. We look so much on Naomi that she faced so much death, but she also lost her husband, Ruth. She lost her brother-in-law. She lost her father-in-law. She lost any hope of having children and descendants. She lost all that. She also went through struggles. But during that time, she had great faith. Why do I say she had great faith? She had a lot of sacrifices she made. She left her people, her culture, her background, her family, and she went and embraced the God of the Israelites. And she went to the unknown place, and she walked in faith. And you know what? When you throw faith to God, whether small or great, God is going to work with that. In fact, you know what? It says that she happened to go to Boaz's land. No, it did just happen. It wasn't just happenstance. It was the hand of God tugging her and telling her, go there. Whispering to her soul, go to this land. I'm going to take care of you there. And she worked. God worked in the heart of Boaz to show favor on her, to show compassion on her. Friends, whatever circumstances you're going through, however difficult it is, Give God the faith that He needs. He can't work without faith. He needs your faith. Even if it's small, He will work with it. I'm sorry, I have to correct that. God can even work at times when we're faithless. I'm sorry, okay? But He will even work even more in a greater way when you give Him faith. He needs faith. He needs trust. He needs you to look to Him. So my friends, you may be fine right now, but all of us will go through the trenches. We'll go through the dark pits of life. And during that time, when you're too weak to even raise your hand and look to God, when you're too weak to even think about God, all you need to do is just breathe that prayer, whisper that prayer, even with a weak voice. Even if you can't even speak it, just think it. All you need to say is, Lord, help me. That's all. God bless you.